Welcome to Books and Brews. Today we are here with some fine Irish whiskey to start. Guys, glasses up. Cheers. A little bit of a sweet finish. What do you guys think?
I like this one. It's not too strong. It's actually kind of smooth. You know, I thought something from Trader Joe's would be kind of like varnish or something like that. But this one actually goes down pretty good.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's good. It's got something at the end. I don't know what. I'm not a whiskey aficionado, but it's got something. I don't know. It's like it's kind of like ivory soap. That's what it reminds me of. The bar soap. You know?
Well, I did wash it before the glasses before we started, so ivory soap.
To me, it smells like detergent, but
It's
it's
got-
good. Not like in a disgusting way.
This has got a nice little bit of heat on it. It's not. It's smooth, but after it's down, you feel that kind of like, ooh.
Right.
Like I feel like the inside of my ears get hot. That's the.
Right.
They are a
They're a
little red,
little red.
actually. Yeah, they're warming up.
In addition to drinking Irish whiskey, we're also talking about America's favorite immigrant. I'm going to spare you a joke. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He wrote a book called Total Recall. It's actually had a different name, but this is the second edition, which included a lot of his life as the governor and many other things that he did since importing from Austria. This is a really long book that covers his life. I don't know how you write an autobiography. He's still got a number of years left. I think he's in his 60s, maybe?
60.
So he's still got 30 years to change policy and make movies. But there's a lot to talk about in this book. I guess to get things started, what is your favorite Arnold movie?
Conan. That was the first one I saw when I was a kid. For some reason, in the mid 80s, that was on public TV like every week, and I probably watched that 100 times when I was about 7 years old.
Okay.
Then you saw Conan on public TV.
Yeah.
So over the air, right? Just over the network TV on like
network.
a Sunday
Yeah.
afternoon.
Okay, I see.
I don't know.
what you're
Maybe we had a box.
So like
but,
on TV with the one big.
yeah, but I'm
knob on
talking
it.
about back when there was like 20 channels. You know.
Right.
The Sunday afternoon movie.
Yeah,
then
and
a
you
bunch of
watched what was on
commercials.
TV.
Yeah.
I saw Conan, and that actually is my favorite movie because I was reading the book series. You know, there were like 13, 14 books that the original author.
Nerd alert.
Yeah, pretty much.
No denying that one.
Right, no. And, you know, so my mom took me to see the movies. Unbeknownst to her and myself, there would be like naked women, orgy scenes, and gross violence.
I don't remember
You know,
that.
well, that's because you saw it on regular TV.
Edited Sunday
yeah,
afternoon version,
If you had seen it in the movie theaters, you would have gotten the pure, unadulterated, the good version.
Okay, but which one are you talking about? Conan the Barbarian or Conan the Destroyer?
No, Conan the Barbarian.
That was the first one,
That
right?
was the good one.
Right,
That was the
right,
good
right.
one. I can't even remember what Conan the Destroyer is about.
It was silly.
It's about a paycheck. That's what it's about.
That's what that was. Yeah.
I was trying to go through the mental catalog, and we'll probably get to it in a minute, but I would say T2, when that came out in 92, I think.
That sounds right.
I was maybe like 10. I'm trying to remember the exact date, but as a young man, this was the pinnacle of like what young men should like in movies. Like there's explosions, there's robots, there's a young kid who's like kind of the backup star. Like this was the quintessential coolest movie I could fathom.
Right.
Well,
at
it
the
also
time.
those black glasses that he wore, like it brought those into style. And Guns N' Roses did the soundtrack, and that song. What's the song that there was a song that they did just for T2 that became like a number one
Vague
song?
remember this.
I don't remember. I just remember the.
Anyway,
Yeah.
okay, so Guns N' Roses did a song that was really popular. So it was like kind of it had a huge influence on pop culture. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it was such a big film at the time, and it was filmed. A lot of it was filmed here in LA. Like there's that whole scene where they're driving through the riverbed. So
He's riding the motorcycle.
He's riding the motorcycle,
Yeah.
and he talked about in the book how he had to practice shooting that shotgun like a robot to just be super still, drive, and do the. It's one of those lever action shotguns, so he loops it over, and
Yeah, that was awesome.
it just as a kid that was the coolest thing, and the special effects at that time. James
Right.
Cameron, like. That's one of those movies that, for being however many years old, still holds up pretty well today for
Right.
a movie that came out in
The
'92.
liquid metal and all that.
Liquid
whole
metal, the
9 yards.
explosions, everything.
Right.
So there's a lot to talk about in Arnold's life. Was there something that stood out in the course of immigrant, actor, politician, and that whole thing that stood out to you?
Yeah, so we were talking about this a little bit before. Mostly just that he worked his ass off. The guy, the first time I saw pumping iron, my first reaction, some people love pumping iron. It's like a religious experience for them. My first reaction is, this guy's really a jerk. You know, and then I read more about him. I found out he was like one of the most powerful men in Hollywood, which you only get to be that by being an extreme jerk. But he didn't just take advantage of people. He did do that, but he didn't just do that. He really worked his ass off. He's never stopped working his whole life. He's never taken a break. Hard worker.
Well, you know, the thing is, I don't think he took advantage of people so much as he took advantage of opportunities that were put in front of him. Yeah. You know, I like the fact that when he talks about how, you know, he was just trying to take bodybuilding to a different level, and then all of a sudden people became so, you know, engrossed with bodybuilding that they suddenly wanted to write movies about it, and that launched his movie career, and, you know, it just moved into other arenas with other people that he had never met before, and that all these opportunities presented themselves, and he took advantage of it. And because of his hard work ethic, like you were talking, it was easy for him to just rise up like that. And I think that, for me, that stood out. That's a great model for anybody who's trying to advance themselves in life. If you see opportunities, take advantage of it. If you're a hard worker, those opportunities will present themselves, and you know, just go with it. That's what I took away from that.
Yeah, I think one of the unique things about his background as a bodybuilder is there's not really any way to cheat that. It's a lot of time at the gym doing reps. And I think you're building that model of discipline, of just going to the gym on days when the weather's not good, when you don't want to be there, when there's a million other things that you'd rather do. If you can still show up at the gym and push yourself, and he was pushing himself very hard. They talk a little bit about the steroids and everything else, but I think that's kind of the icing on the cake. It pushed him a little further.
There's no question, you know? He did steroids, but it's not like you can do steroids and be a lazy guy and become a... You have to work hard, and like you said, put the time in at the gym.
And the steroids that they were using back then were nowhere near the stuff that they're using now. You know, back then they had a couple Phenojet, Decadurabolin, don't ask me how I know.
What?
But, you know, those things back in the day, you know, they were just a couple of like
Notice you've been packing on some muscle up here.
We should talk about something else. You know, and then there was this one cat that I had known when I was in like my late 20s, early 30s, and he was huge. You know, he would come in to, I worked at a health food store at the time, and he got a job there, and he was drinking this mixture of vinegar and water. He had to drink a gallon of it a day. And I'm like, you know, dude, what's the story behind it? You know, after I got to know him, I didn't want to ask him at first. And he was telling me what happened is he was taking equipoise. Equipoise, from horse, is basically a horse steroid that they give to racehorses, you know, and in breeding and that kind of thing. And he was taking it, and his kidneys completely shut down. So after his recovery in the hospital, he was required for an entire year to drink a gallon of vinegar and water every day.
I'm gonna look that up on WebMD and see if that is.
That was part of the treatment. I'm not saying that's a total.
If that's an appropriate treatment for horse steroids.
No, I mean that was after he woke up in the hospital after he passed out. But,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So yeah, the stuff they were using was nowhere near like what's going on.
Yeah, it was very light.
Hey, wait. So can I ask another question? What's the worst Schwarzenegger movie? So many to choose from.
Last Action Hero. There's in my mind. It's just I saw that theater. What the hell is? There's an animated cat. There's just a whole bunch of stuff. It's a bunch of, it is the hot dog of films. It's just all the leftovers thrown together. It's got a nice casing on the outside. You go, hey, Arnold's involved in this. It must be good. No, it's that in my book's the word. Do you have a bad Arnold one?
Red Heat. That was the worst, where he played the Russian.
Yeah, I liked Red Heat. Wait. Was Red Heat the one with Belushi?
Yeah, he's the cop in Moscow.
I had a poster in my room, a Red Heat movie poster.
Oh, there was him in that bad hair, slick back.
He said, I counted, he said like, I want to say like 18 words in the whole movie.
His English was not good.
Yeah, it was double digits. Seriously, it was double digits in terms of dialogue.
Remember he rips this guy's fake leg off, and it's got the drugs in it, and he pours it
that's
out.
Right. Yep.
And he's just like, cocaine. Like everybody else in the room, these policemen didn't know what it was. You know, and that's when I was like, this movie sucks. And that was at the beginning, but I just powered through the
Stayed
next
through
hour
it.
and a half.
Yeah, that was in the Turkish bathhouse.
I don't know.
But it was in
that.
Russia, yeah.
Okay.
So here's the interesting thing about, Arnold has had such a massive career. I think what people don't realize is they think that maybe, he was sprinkled with the talent of, God sprinkled talent upon him, and he was a bodybuilder. And because of that, he just got lucky and did films. He did a ton of work that wasn't very good. Conan 2, I would say probably more of his movies.
Hercules in New York.
Hercules in New York, that was his first one. More of his movies are not, at least, critically speaking, or in my humble opinion, are not very good. But all those turned into paydays, and he leveraged that to do other things. And like he bought a bunch of property, and I think the lesson for success in a lot of this is you're going to fail, but you got to keep going, even when it doesn't, maybe not what you expected. I think he was signed on to do Conan 2 and a bunch of other movies that he basically had to do contractually. And some of them didn't make much sense to do, but you take that, you keep going, and move on to the next thing. And I think that's the moral in life is you keep going, moving on to the next project.
Right. Just it seemed like whatever he was dedicated to, even if he didn't want to do it, he would still give it his all. And if like you were talking about Hercules in New York, he had no idea how to act, but he was saying towards the end of filming, he actually started to, okay, this is how this works. And from here on in, for the final scene where he's supposed to cry or some nonsense like that, he just, he really puts himself into it, and so I think that that was one of the things that has always gotten him through is the fact that he will push himself to do the best at whatever it was. He even talks about it when he was a little boy, when he starts selling the ice cream in the park and all that kind of stuff, trying to do all this entrepreneurial stuff. He's always pushed himself to do the best.
He's a hustler.
Yeah, he was a hustler.
Which I think, that hustling gene, if you want to call it that, that's what eventually led him into politics because he's a very smart guy. I don't think you really get that in his movies. He kind of plays a dumb action hero. But when you read his writing, this is not a Pulitzer Prize winner, but this is a man whose first language was Austrian. So when you think he wrote an entire book as English as a second language, and then had the drive to do all these other things. It talks about his life and how he basically met Maria, and she had a bunch of drive, and that's how they kind of found this attraction to each other. And then how he leveraged his career in movies to do politics. And I remember when he was elected. I think I voted for him not in the primaries, but the second time.
Oh, you voted for him?
I think so because at the time California was a big mess. There was a lot of stuff going on with power being deregulated. This is kind of boring stuff for California because we're always going to have all these problems with money and energy and water and all these things were there that are unfortunately still here today. But he kind of went in and said, I'm going to do my best to fix this. And it seemed like he put forth an honest foot to try to actually tackle those problems. Do you remember this when he was being elected? And
I remember that because I was having a lot of conversations with people at work, and they were talking about how, oh no, we need to vote, for Gray Davis because he's a Democrat. Okay, he's a Democrat, but why should we keep him in office? And Arnold came along with the whole thing about cutting taxes, and I know people that voted for him because he said he was going to cut the car registration tax to like 2/3.
Yeah,
they voted for him just because of that.
That was the catalyst for the recall was the car registration.
Right, and after he cut it, all these services were gone because there was no longer tax money to support him. And people were, I shouldn't have voted for Arnold. Well, it is what it is.
Did you vote for Arnold?
No, I did not. Yeah, no, I did. But it was just for a bunch of other reasons. It wasn't just because, he's going to cut taxes, But, he did what he could. I think he ran for office out of really pure reasons from the heart. It wasn't just because he wanted to elevate himself. From what he says in the book, he was just so grateful to be here in this country, to be part of the American process, that he thought he could add something to it. He, as an outsider of politics, he thought he'd seen things that, some of the other people who weren't caught up in the whole legislative issues, the go along, get along, and all that other kind of mess that clogs every legislature from state to national politics. He was outside of that, even though he was married to a Kennedy, and he wanted to give back and straighten things out. And that's one thing that I do admire about him, is the fact that he went into politics with that pure drive to actually make a change and give back.
Yeah. Did you vote for him? Do you remember?
I did vote for him, yeah. I don't really know why, other than like big change was happening in California.
Because you had a red heat poster on your
Yeah,
building.
because I loved him from his movies. I think I was probably like a lot of the population that I didn't really understand a lot of the issues behind the recall and some of the complexities of what was happening in politics in California at that time. And I knew that Gray Davis was bad because my car registration went up, so he has to be out of office, and we need a new governor, and why not vote for Arnold Schwarzenegger? I like him.
Yeah.
So that was not too well thought out, but I think that's probably indicative of a lot of the population of the state of California at the time.
Yeah, for those of you that maybe weren't voting at this time or
maybe don't live in California.
Don't live in California. The other folks who were running against Arnold were Gary Coleman. There was a porn star.
Oh, the porn star. Almost voted for her.
She was a close second, runner-up.
Didn't Angeline run though?
I think so.
The woman with wears pink and has billboards but has never done anything in life here in LA.
Because at this time, this is a weird kind of political climate of during a recall.
There's a whole group of people like that.
That's actually, if you've never been to LA, that's how celebrities are born. You just have to be known for something and not do anything, and you're good. So there was a whole bunch of people running, and the way the recall election works is the process is significantly shortened, so there's not as much time to campaign, and it really was the perfect opportunity for Arnold to get his name in the ring and beat out celebrities like security guard Gary Coleman.
It's honest work.
What you talking about, Dan?
Yeah. So it was a unique time. This book, he takes a very honest approach, and he admits to a lot of the mistakes that he made. Some of them were small, some of them were big. One of the ones that I kept waiting to get in the book, or is he going to talk about the affair? Not the one with Brigitte Nielsen, because that was early in the book, but the one with his housekeeper. And it does come up. I feel like it gets glossed over a little bit. I vaguely remember when this happened in the news. Do you said you saw a picture of his maid, right? Mildred?
Yes, probably a wonderful person, not the most attractive lady. And I would think, I don't know, I can't understand. A man like Arnold, who's a very handsome man, very powerful, very wealthy, I would figure that he would be having affairs with the most beautiful, attractive, intelligent women. And he had an affair with his not terribly attractive, poor maid.
Yeah.
To me, it just seemed lazy. Like, what are you doing,
that's
man?
the thing. He kept it local. You know what I mean? He's like, I'm not going to go out and hunt for it. People are going to see me out on the road with these women. I've got her here. She's an employee. Hey, Mildred, let's get it on. What's up? And I think that's pretty much the reason why.
So, the thing is, his life was characterized by, he's incredibly sexist and had lots of affairs, actually. I mean, there's so many women that have come out of the woodwork to talk about him harassing them and all kinds of stuff.
These are the same chicks that are blaming Bill Cosby for that nonsense.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. They didn't get Arnold. Now they've moved on to Bill Cosby. Yeah.
Right. It's a whole group of
He's
them.
totally
I think
innocent.
If Oliver Stone does his research, he'll find out. This is
the thing about this particular affair, I think, is that the kid looks exactly like him. A little more dark skin, darker hair, like his mom. But you look at the face, and he's got that Arnold jawline, and you're like, that's Arnold Jr. there.
Right, exactly. He looks more like him than his kids with Maria, and that's the cold-blooded thing about it. Yeah. Maria's got to look at this little boy and be like, damn, he looks more like Arnold than our own kids do. Well, his daughter kind of looks like him. That's not a good thing. But anyway.
Yeah. So one thing that I do want to say about Arnold, I feel like every time I read a biography of a really successful person, and it's usually men, the highlights are always, brought up and stuff, but it seems like so many successful men are just terrible people. And Arnold seems like a really ambitious, hardworking, terrible person. And he treated a lot of the people around him like crap, including his own wife and his kids. His family's torn up over his affairs. And that one affair is only one of many.
Right.
I don't know. I just felt like I needed to make sure we don't praise Arnold too much. I feel like as a human being in the grand scheme of things, not really a great person, not somebody you'd want to be best friends with or, you know, have as your father per se.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, but you know, I think there's some there's some honesty in that, because I think it's easy to kind of look at someone on this grand timeline scale and say, like, this is the guy that's done 57 movies, was California governor for 1.5 terms and everything else, and unfortunately there is that kind of part of his past that he glosses over in the book. But you know, I guess I'm getting at is the lesson here is emulate Arnold's work ethic, not necessarily his whole grand scheme of, you know, put people in tough positions and maybe do some things that are a little questionable on the moral side, and you know, have relations with your maid. That's probably not something that you want to do. Maybe a 1% problem. I don't know. I'm not going to judge. But is there a takeaway that you can give in would you recommend this book?
I would definitely recommend this book. And I think it's because it talks about his drive. He's, you know, to improve himself, to make himself more in life, you know, from that pretty much 1-2 bedroom house he came from in the Austrian force, and now he's on the world stage. You know, he had always had big dreams. He followed them. He was ambitious. He made basically these things happen. He took advantage of all of that. And I think the fact that he was just so terribly candid in the story, he was so open about what he had done in his life with the affairs and, you know, some of the other things that he had gone through and put other people through. You know, just for that, I think it's worth reading.
Yeah. What do you think? Almost out of time.
Yeah, I think his ghostwriter did an excellent job with this book. Come on, you know, Arnold did not sit down and write hundreds of pages at the computer.
Okay, right.
I don't know if I'd recommend this book. The thing is, I think this kind of stuff is excellent, but I feel like so many people, I don't want them to read this because I don't want them to walk away talking about how awesome Arnold is. You know, it's like Steve Jobs. He was a terrible person. Everybody talks about what a genius he was and how great he was. It was like, if you worked for Steve Jobs, he was an absolute jerk. He would cuss you out, yell at you, tell you your work was crap. And I feel like Arnold's kind of the same kind of person. Like, I don't want people to fall into the trap of saying Arnold's awesome and praising him so much versus praising particular parts about his life, like his work ethic.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm conflicted about whether I would recommend this.
All right. I say pick this up. I think it's a good read. It's a little bit long, maybe skim through it, but there's a lot of lessons to be learned in here, as long as it's taken with honesty, as you said. Thank you so much, guys. We'll be back very soon with more great episodes.